The light in the High Council chamber shifted with the rhythm of Vorther Prime's twin suns. Pale gold filtered through crystalline arches, washing over ancient stone and smooth black slabs inscribed with 1,000 years of military doctrine. The chamber echoed with pride, precision, and the quiet rustle of silk uniforms. That pride turned to condescension the moment Corval entered. The Zorith veteran walked slowly, not out of frailty but control. His ceremonial armor, scored from 5 campaigns, reflected the chamber's ambient light like scorched obsidian. A single eye, clouded with age, locked onto the circle of counselors who sat above him. High Strategos Valtari Marn lounged in the central seat, fingers interlaced, expression unreadable. He was younger, pristine, untouched by the dirt of real warfare. His polished silver uniform bore no scars. "You requested this audience, Commander Corval," Marn said, voice cool. "Speak." "Briefly." Corval nodded. "Your forces are deploying humans to the Scarnis front." A bored murmur followed. Of course they were. Disposable shock troops, efficient if controlled. "They're being sent as fodder," Corval said flatly, scanning the circle. "But if you believe Earth's soldiers are fodder, you don't understand what you've let into this empire." Counselor Rihk hissed. "Humans are reckless and disobedient." "They are," Corval agreed. "But they are also terrifyingly adaptive. When outgunned, they improvise. When outnumbered, they endure. And when cornered, they burn everything in their path, including themselves." Marn raised a brow. "You sound afraid." "I am." A silence thickened the room. Marn leaned forward. "You think these primitives, these short-lived, undisciplined brutes, can threaten the order we've maintained for millennia?" Corval didn't blink. "They won't threaten it. They'll outgrow it. Unless respected and understood, they will redefine it." Marn waved him off. "Noted. The matter is closed." Corval turned without another word, the steel of his boots echoing with slow finality. Behind him, the chamber resumed its symphony of bureaucracy, unaware that a storm had been dismissed as drizzle. 3 light-years away, the jungle moon of Tau Ceti IV pulsed under stormy skies. Inside a reinforced combat arena buried beneath the earth, Captain Elena Rourke stood alone in the center of a blood-slicked floor, catching her breath. Her opponent groaned on the ground, a new recruit half her age. Her voice was calm as she removed her training gloves. "Get up. You fight like the Empire thinks we all do. Clean. Predictable. That'll get you and everyone beside you killed." The recruit staggered upright. "Yes, ma'am." Around them, her squad looked on silently, faces grim and sharp. These weren't ceremonial soldiers. They were Earth's answer to centuries of war. Genetically unmodified, but honed through fire and blood. Lieutenant Haskins smirked from the sideline. "Think Marn'll be thrilled to see us deployed again?" Elena cracked her neck. "He won't see us at all. That's how he prefers it." A tone chimed. Her wrist implant lit up, coded orders from the Joint Command. Deployment confirmed. Destination, Scarnis. She read through the mission specs, then handed the implant to Haskins. "Rebel cells with terrain advantage. Empire's already lost 2 platoons." He scanned it and chuckled. "And we're supposed to fix that?" "No," Elena said, grabbing her rifle off the rack. "We're supposed to bleed quietly while they write each other commendations." Scarnis was rot and fog and decay. Trees spiraled in corkscrew shapes, bark like fossilized bone. The air tasted like rusted metal and fungal spores. Human boots hit the mud with dull splashes as Elena's squad moved in, formation tight and silent. The drop had been unauthorized, the landing point unmarked. She crouched, raising her scanner. "No thermal signatures, but I smell them." "Rebels?" Haskins asked. "No. The suits in orbit." The Imperials had arrived first, loud, proud, confident. Drone footage showed them burning sections of the jungle for landing zones. A tactical disaster. Elena knelt and picked up a blackened Imperial helmet, cracked open from a kinetic impact. "These rebels aren't tribal. They're smart. And they've already buried the fancy ones." She tapped her comm. Echo team, we're going quiet. Turn off HUD beacons. This is our war now. By nightfall, Elena's squad was inside the rebel lines. She mapped the terrain with chalk, vines, and memory. No drones. No signals. Just instinct and pressure. They moved like phantoms, planting spike traps and whisper bombs, homemade charges triggered by air pressure changes. They used blood trails to bait the enemy, even let one rebel escape to spread misinformation. Each tactic was old school. Efficient. Brutal. By dawn, half the rebel camp had been neutralized. No gunfire. No mess. Just vanishing sentries and detonations in the dark. From orbit, Strategos Marn scowled at his hollow display. Human units have breached unauthorized zones. No command clearance logged. His aide spoke carefully. Casualty reports show improved outcomes where they operate. Rogue outcomes, Marn corrected. Order them recalled. Discipline must be restored. Back in the jungle, Elena sat with her team in a hollowed-out ravine, reviewing movement patterns by firelight. Haskins pulled out an old Terran protein bar. Think they'll ever admit we're the only reason they're not eating plasma? Elena took the bar and broke it in half. They won't. And that's not why we fight. He raised an eyebrow. Then why do we? She chewed slowly, watching steam rise from the wet ground. Because we don't lose. And if we're going to bleed, we might as well win while doing it. She stood and adjusted her rifle strap. Prep for Phase 2. We're hitting their central node next. After that, the Empire can take credit. Like always. On the far side of the moon, buried in a bunker beneath a hill of corpses, a rebel leader reviewed heat maps. He paused as human-shaped voids blinked across the screen, silent, flickering patterns moving unlike any formation he'd seen. He frowned. Not Zarn troopers. Not Vraxi. Who are these ghosts? The screen blinked. A final feed from a rebel scout cut off mid-scream. Above it all, in the cold reach of orbit, Corval stood silently aboard a civilian shuttle, watching Scarnis rotate below. He spoke to no one. But to himself, he whispered, Now they'll see. And far beneath, Elena Rourke raised a fist, signaling her squad to move. The forest swallowed them whole. The hunt had begun. Rain fell like shrapnel through the jungle canopy, slicing through the silence as Elena Rourke knelt beside a moss-covered corpse. The dead rebel's eyes were still open, frozen in surprise. His weapon was intact. No struggle. Clean shot to the temple. Second one like this today, Haskins said behind her, voice low. They never heard us coming. They won't, Elena replied. She wiped the rain from her visor. That's the point. Her squad moved like ghosts, tracking the enemy without being seen, hitting hard, vanishing faster. The jungle was their ally, humid, dense, unreadable to orbiting surveillance. Imperial tech failed here. Human instinct thrived. Farther uphill, Private Lena placed a tripwire. She looked up, rain dripping off her helmet. Ma'am, found another tunnel entrance. Deeper than the last. Elena nodded. Collapse it. We don't let rats regroup. 2 hours later, the jungle exploded in a symphony of fire and screams. Hidden claymore variants, wired by hand, tore through enemy lines. Above, Imperial drones failed to detect the firefight until long after it was over. Up in orbit, Strategos Marn paced across the bridge of the ISS Vindicta, a blade-shaped flagship lined with white steel and arrogance. He watched the battle feed with growing irritation. Human units are operating outside command parameters, his aide reported. They're clearing sectors far beyond assigned patrol zones. And taking losses? Minimal. Enemy casualties near total. Marn's jaw tightened. Barbaric tactics. No order. No doctrine. Another officer chimed in. Sir, with respect, their results are chaotic. Marn snapped. Let chaos win battles, and soon it commands armies. He turned to the console. Summon Captain Rourke. Now. The summons came via encrypted burst transmission. Elena reviewed it as her team regrouped beneath a collapsed overhang, steam rising from spent explosives. They want me in orbit, she said, eyes narrowing. Promotion or punishment? Haskins asked, spitting mud. Doesn't matter. If they're watching now, it's because we embarrassed them. The Vindicta's interior gleamed like a museum. Elena's boots left muddy prints on the polished floor. Imperial guards flinched at her worn armor, the dried blood still on her sleeves. In the council chamber, Strategos Marn stood alone, arms folded behind his back, uniform pristine, medals arranged like sacred geometry. He didn't offer a seat. You disobeyed protocol, he began. I adapted, Elena said evenly. You exceeded operational range, ignored command structure, and applied unapproved combat methods. She stepped closer. And we won. Your legions failed. Ours didn't. Marn's voice turned sharp. You call that winning? Traps, improvised weapons, night strikes like savages in the dark? That's not war, it's butchery. Elena leaned in, eyes hard. It's survival. Your doctrine doesn't work here. Mine does. For a moment, silence filled the room. Marn stepped back, sneering. You and your unit are reassigned. Escort detail for supply convoys. Effective immediately. Elena didn't blink. Punish us if you must. Just hope your next war isn't in a jungle. Back planetside, morale dipped. The squad moved supplies instead of clearing threats. They watched others die in sectors they'd already mapped for danger. I don't get it, Lena muttered, driving a repulsor lift through sludge. We could have finished this by now. They're scared of what we proved, Elena replied. That we don't need their chain of command to win. You think Marn's trying to sideline us? I think he's afraid of losing control. 3 nights later, it happened. The Battle of Ravik's Pass. An Imperial column advanced through a narrow gorge, using heavy artillery and air support. The terrain was unfamiliar. The enemy knew it better. Underground tunnels opened like jaws. Explosions rocked the pass. Screams echoed. Dozens of Imperial units vanished into sinkholes and fire. Elena heard the emergency call on her restricted channel, unauthorized signal. She didn't hesitate. We're moving, she said, throwing on her gear. Orders? Haskins asked. Save their asses. They arrived at the gorge in darkness. Fires burned unchecked. Imperial medics cowered behind shattered transports. Rebel snipers controlled the ridge. Elena moved without waiting. She coordinated strikes using IR flares and shadow movement. Her team climbed the slope under cover of chaos. One by one, snipers went silent. Tunnels collapsed under explosive charges. They cut off enemy retreat paths and choked entrances with smoke bombs. At the center, Elena hauled a bleeding alien officer from a burning transport. Still think traps are primitive? She asked, jamming a stimulant into his chest. He stared, wide-eyed. You saved us. We saved ourselves. You just happened to be here. By dawn, the gorge was clear. Over 300 Imperial lives preserved. Not one rebel remained. The Vindicta landed an hour later. Strategos Marn emerged with an entourage of staff. He walked through the wreckage like it offended him. Elena stood at the center of the field, arms folded. Her squad flanked her, bloodied and exhausted. Marn surveyed the sight. I ordered you to escort supply lines. And we did, Elena said flatly. Escorted the living back from hell. He stepped forward. You disobeyed direct orders. Again. Haskins stepped in. Sir, if we hadn't. I didn't ask you. Marn barked. Elena met his gaze, unwavering. We didn't come here to follow bad orders. We came to win. Marn's eyes narrowed. You'll be debriefed. And reassigned again. Of course. As he turned to leave, Corval emerged from the dropship ramp, silent, watching. Marn paused. What are you doing here? Corval said nothing to him. Instead, he approached Elena. For the first time, she saw respect in alien eyes. You fight like the old ones, he said quietly. Not by protocol. By instinct. Elena tilted her head. You're the one who warned them, aren't you? They didn't listen. They still won't. Corvalla's gaze hardened. Then their end will come sooner than mine. That night, the squad rested beside a crashed Imperial lander. Rain returned, heavy and endless. Lena stared into the fire. We saved them. What does it matter if no one knows? Elena looked up at the storm. We don't need statues or medals. We just need to keep breathing. That's how we win. The jungle whispered beyond the firelight. And somewhere in the dark, war stirred again. The stars above Scarnis blinked like dying embers. From the edge of the orbiting command satellite, Elena stood alone, visor reflecting the void. Her fingers tapped the encrypted tablet clutched in one gloved hand. Lines of intercepted data pulse-read across the screen. Not rebel chatter. Something worse. Haskins appeared behind her, holding his helmet beneath one arm. You're sure it's legit? She turned the screen toward him. Multiple encrypted signals. Different language matrix. Not local. Definitely not rebel. This isn't a resistance movement. Then who is it? She exhaled through her teeth. A decoy. There's something coming, Haskins. A full military push, and it's not from any rebel faction. Look at the signal pattern. They're triangulating for an orbital breach. He stared for a moment before realization hit. Dravari. Elena nodded once. And Marn's about to lead half the Empire's fleet into their ambush. On the Vindicta, the High Strategos prepared his battle group. Scarnis was to be left behind. The war front had shifted to Thadarin, a critical asteroid relay station believed to be under minor rebel occupation. Marn's fleet was set to intercept. Elena's report was waiting in his inbox. He ignored it. They overanalyze, Marn told his command staff. These humans see monsters in every shadow. Fear makes them reckless. One of his lieutenants hesitated. Sir, the signal structure does resemble known Dravari code fragments. And if we flinch every time a primitive sends us scraps, we'd still be hiding behind Earth's moon. Marn cut in. He gave the order. Fleet deployment commenced. 30 hours later, Thadarin burned. The Empire's ships arrived in perfect formation, disciplined, confident. They found no rebels. Only silence. Then the silence screamed. Thousands of mechanical behemoths unfolded from the asteroid's core. Dravari warforms, biomech hybrids with viral intelligences, swarmed through space like locusts. Their weapons ignored traditional shields. Their movements weren't tactical, they were mathematical. The first Imperial dreadnought split in half before it could fire. Within minutes, half the fleet was crippled. Communications jammed. Orders broke down. Marn watched the slaughter unfold from his command deck. No doctrine prepared him for this. No formation held. He issued counter-commands. None reached the front. He realized, finally, that the warning he'd buried wasn't a lie. It was prophecy. On Scarnis, Elena received a burst signal, fragmented, panicked, Imperial encryption bleeding static. She listened to the horror. Screams. Static. Explosions. Then, hostile AI breaching command decks, no fallback, requesting assistance from any. Then silence. Her hands tightened around the receiver. She turned to her squad. They're getting butchered. Lena's eyes widened. What do we do? Elena's voice dropped. We break every order they ever gave us. Within hours, the human units commandeered 3 unguarded Imperial transports and converted them for deep space breach. Engineering crews, Earthborn, ignored in most engagements, rigged them with illegal EMP casings, magnetic disruptors, and atmospheric folding drives salvaged from wreckage. No one asked permission. No one waited. Unauthorized departure logged. The Imperial AI droned as Elena's ship disengaged. Noted, she replied, flipping the comms off. They reached Thadarin in chaos. The battlefield was a graveyard of burning hulls. Dravari swarms twisted through zero-G like hungry shadows, piercing bulkheads, infecting ships with nanophage viruses. Elena stood at the edge of the cargo bay, armor locked, weapon charged. She stared at the heart of the swarm, one massive Dravari command node embedded in a hive ship shaped like a coiled spine. She turned to her squad. You remember that drill on Tau Ceti 4? Close quarters, multi-vector boarding? Haskins grinned. The one we weren't supposed to survive? Yeah. That one. The ramp dropped. They launched. Their approach was suicide. Enemy AI scanned their vectors. Too fast to track. Too low-tech to detect. The EMP fields blinded the targeting systems just long enough for them to breach the outer hull. Inside, it was worse. Living metal walls pulsed with electricity. Dravari drones crawled from vents, shrieking in mechanical tongues. The squad moved tight, controlled bursts, sweeping corridors with discipline and rage. One by one, they fell, Lena, torn apart by a tri-limbed construct. Daver, swallowed by a breach in the floor. Haskins took a hit to the chest but kept moving, gritting his teeth through painkillers. They reached the core. A lattice of glowing neural strands stretched above them, pumping data like blood. Elena pulled the fusion charge from her pack, set it for 0 delay. Ready? She asked, sweat slicking her brow inside her helmet. Haskins limped beside her, bleeding from his ribs. We're past ready. The charge detonated. The hive shrieked. On the Vindicta, the power flickered. The Dravari swarm paused, shuddered, then shattered. Their coordination collapsed. Imperial ships regrouped. Survivors counterattacked. The swarm broke apart without command. The Empire barely endured. Later, in the ruins of the hive ship, Elena crawled from the wreckage. Her visor was cracked. Blood ran down her cheek. Behind her, Haskins gasped for breath, but he was alive. Imperial rescue teams arrived minutes later. Drones circled. Medics hesitated when they saw the human armor. No fanfare. No celebration. Just stunned silence. Back on Vorther Prime, Corval stood once more before the council. This time, the room was quiet. You ignored the warnings, he said. And when the machines came, who stood between you and extinction? Not your doctrine. Not your fleet. Humans. Marn sat in the back row, pale and wordless. Corval turned away. The ones you feared saved you. And they will not wait for your permission again. On Earth, weeks later, Elena Rourke stood before a black monument etched with names. Her squad, fallen friends, too many gone. Haskins, still bandaged, lit a match beside her. They'll never admit it. They don't have to, she replied. We're still here. That's enough. She stepped away, leaving the names behind, but carrying them forward. Above them, the stars pulsed quietly. Somewhere, far beyond, another empire watched. And this time, they knew Earth was not to be underestimated.